Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the lunchtime hour with Jose and Neil, Couch Investor, talking about everything: semiconductors, DeepSeek, $25 billion donation by SoftBank to us. I mean, we talk about everything here.
Definitely. What's going on, Neil? How's everything, man?
All good, all good. Busy yesterday night with all the earnings, Meta, Microsoft, Tesla, even Lam Research. I completely forgot about that one.
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, I think I only got to read one yesterday, which was Meta earnings, like really go into it. But yeah, I'm excited to hopefully I end my little vacation that I've been in this week. Friday, tomorrow I go back home, so I'll definitely have a lot more time to read stuff.
Yeah, anything that stood out from what you've seen, like top line stuff?
Top line stuff. I mean, well, first let me just give a quick shout out, Neil, just to we have some people here on chat. On my side, we got Matthew, Felix, Martin, Greg, My Music Spot, ESAT. So thanks everybody to joining, and I'm pretty sure, Neil, you have others on your side. Thank you for the support. Hopefully we can give you guys some value within the next hour, and maybe throw some dad jokes here and there that everybody's gonna enjoy.
Yeah, for sure. Apparently we did dress up today.
Of course, I dress up. If you see me wearing a tie, it's bad news, guys. If you see me wearing a tie, it's definitely bad news. It means I'm trying new stuff because things are weird.
Yeah. I mean, I never tried a tie. I don't think I will try a tie anytime soon.
Shout out to Skittles and Rojas and Intel. Joseph mentioned Intel is actually today, right?
Yeah, Intel is later tonight.
Well, depending on where you live, right? I guess it could be tomorrow. I don't know.
Yeah, it's today after the market closes. With Apple.
Yeah.
Both non-AI companies.
So yeah, I mean, yesterday, Neil, we had the one I really read was Meta, right? I mean, top of the line things is Mark definitely wants to continue to push out AI to everybody, and Meta definitely has the platform to be able to do it. I mean, what they mentioned, over 2 billion users, at least on one of their platforms, at least using one of their platforms on a daily basis. I forget the number, but it's crazy. So if someone wants to kind of expand AI into the overall world, I think Meta has the biggest ability to do so. They also continue to mention that Capex is going to be, it's going to stay in line with what they gave on Friday, which was that 60 to 65 billion. So great news for AI investments. They also talked about DeepSeek, how they're going to start to use what they're learning there, and every other big tech player is learning, right, from anything that continues to develop. Not only just Chinese competitors, everybody in the space, whenever something new comes out, they learn, and that's how it's always been in tech space. But they still believe that high compute, high infrastructure is what's going to be needed for the long term. I think Mark mentioned, he says he believes the asset of high investments in, and I'm kind of paraphrasing here, but high investments in infrastructure is going to lead to a strong asset in the future of being how to be able to expand these types of AI solutions. So it definitely seems like AI compute is there. As an NVIDIA shareholder, Neil, and I'll give it to you in a second. I know I'm rambling here. As an NVIDIA shareholder, two things kind of caught my attention. The first one is they did talk about their MTAI custom chip and that they're going to expand it. I'm not too worried about that one. Every other player does this, and you're going to be able to kind of. I don't think there's a competition to NVIDIA's chips in that form. But then when he was talking about DeepSeek, it kind of mentioned like he's looking at uncertainties. The way I listened to it, right? He didn't say it like this, but the way I read it was there's still some uncertainties with what's happening with DeepSeek, and things can maybe change in the upcoming quarters. So I think, while I don't believe I'm bearish, I wouldn't say I'm bearish on Nvidia. No, definitely not. I think there's still risk of uncertainty, and that risk of uncertainty has increased a little bit after the DeepSeek, especially after hearing kind of Meta's earnings. I think I actually even want to listen to it again, Neil, because one thing is I like listening to how CEOs talk to see if there's maybe a change in when a question is asked, if they have a change in tone, and that can also tell a lot about their thought process on the AI space.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I think he also said that he believes Meta AI will reach 1 billion users in 2025. At least that's their goal. And to be honest, with the platform and distribution that they have, I can't see why that's not possible. I think they're already at 700 million or something like that. So that's already a pretty crazy number. But yeah, the comments on while working a bit closer with Broadcom, I would say, isn't that maybe also a hit towards AMD? Because when we look at inferencing, everybody linking AMD with Meta. And I think because of that, because it's Meta is not the only one that's working with Broadcom on custom chips, I think for inferencing, we're going to see that way more specialized chips for specialized functions for specific companies, specific workloads. So that's going to be something interesting to follow. As a whole, with Meta, we're going to touch a little bit about Microsoft as well. The whole Capex thing, I mean, they're still going to spend billions and billions of dollars, and the majority of that, I would assume, is still going to Nvidia. Nvidia right now is down 3-4% on the day. Microsoft is also down, but that's also a strange thing, right? Because at first we're like, oh, they're overspending, and now that they're saying that Capex is going to be flat-ish, right? No growth, no amount of growth that we've seen before. That's also a bearish thing, which that doesn't make sense. They can't win, but they're still all spending a significant amount of money on building out that infrastructure. And I think we both agree that 90+% of the market is still Nvidia. So they're still going to take in quite a lot of those little dollars. But yeah, maybe in the future there's less money going to come from those big players towards Nvidia. But then I think that's when the software side of things is going to play an important part, the applications and all of that.
Definitely, Neil. And I agree with the point you mentioned, Neil, here. I think this is more impactful for AMD, at least with their custom AI solutions. I think that's definitely a really good point. And Greg definitely mentions this. DeepSeek's takeaway is not that AI cannot be built cheaply. We don't want to just stick with the current levels of AI smarts. We want better in AI and take efficiency gains and keep scaling. Yes. So I agree that's the case, Greg. I believe AI computational is still needed. I think that's definitely a take that we get from Meta, and I think even Microsoft and all the other players. AI capacity and AI computational is still needed at a top level overview. Now, the question is, have these efficiencies, and I'm not saying it's true, I'm just saying the risk is there. That question is there in the overall market. Have these efficiencies created maybe a bit of weakness for Nvidia's moat? Now, I think someone else mentioned here, I think it was Chris mentioned Nvidia still has its ecosystem, not just hardware. And that's very important, right? The other thing that I want to mention is with all these AI advancements, eventually there's going to be a time where there's going to be a change in maybe workload. And the only one that can really change with the workload would be an NVIDIA GPU. Imagine if you find a new efficiency, but you can't change that efficiency in theory in your ASIC solution because it's kind of hard coded and you can't do it. So kind of if you want that efficiencies, the only real way to gain it is through NVIDIA. So I think this change in DeepSeek provides a reason of why you should continue to invest in GPUs in general, because workloads can shift out of nowhere. And the only companies and the only products right now that can shift with it are GPUs. Now, it also kind of opens up the mind if, hey, look, maybe right now our ASICs going to eat up a little bit more market share, as maybe we can provide cheaper solutions in the moment. So I think it's just more questions being asked, and that's kind of creating more volatility for stocks like Nvidia.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. I think also Elon said during Tesla's earnings call about Optimus needing 10x the compute, training compute than cars. And I mean, if you need 10x that, so I think we still have some times until we see some real weakness that can break Nvidia's, let's say, dominance, I would say. Plus, that is also true. Intel's ex-CEO Pat Gelsinger bought the dip on Nvidia because he said it was a bit of an oral reaction and quite ridiculous, funny thing to hear coming from the ex-Intel CEO. I think I've also seen a headline saying that Nvidia said they cannot. Jensen once said that they cannot trust Samsung with their products and engineers because everything is changing there from executives. Very good news for Micron and SK Hynix.
Definitely. It definitely seems like, obviously, when they talk to the press, I don't think Jensen has ever said anything mean or nice about Samsung, but he's just like, yep, we're working with them to make sure that things get validated. But that report showcases that Samsung definitely is a bit behind in this space. And Neil, I mean, with Tesla's robotics compute, I think there's so much more in AI than we can think of right now. So that computational is going to continue to grow. So again, I don't want to make it seem to the viewers that I'm bearish on Nvidia. It's just the thought process that are going through my head right now, and that's what I just want to share. Right? I think it's not. I think to the market, it's creating more questions, and in the market, when you have more questions, it creates more volatility.
Agreed. This is definitely what we've seen on Monday, right? Huge question marks. Nvidia losing $600 billion in market cap, all the other companies also crashing. And then a couple of days later, we see plenty of green here. Lam Research, Broadcom, ARM, ASML. I mean, the list goes on. The only one that is red today is, of course, Nvidia, and Intel is basically flat because, it reports after hours. That's going to be an interesting one to listen to. But yeah, go on.
I was going to say, look at that Lam Research, Neil, up 8%, almost 8% right now.
Yeah, it's funny because 3 months ago, I think it was exactly the same thing. Sentiment was so bad, double beat, good earnings reports, stock goes up back to the 80s, puff down afterwards.
Yeah, so let's see. We got some questions, Neil. Maybe we can take on right now.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see if I can find one. I'm a buyer. Hold on. I was looking at my chat where I should have been looking at the overlay. There was one thing that I did see is a lot of people are wondering how maybe Capex is not growing as fast as before. And does that correlate a little bit to NVIDIA's revenue? I think on the top level overview, it does kind of create a market sentiment of that, Neil. But I also have to remind investors that Capex is a lot of different investments. It could just be the building out of data centers. And in theory, what could be happening, Neil, right? In theory, they might be spending less on building the data centers or that heavy cost of the data center being built, but they can still increase the amount of money they spend on compute and still see a reduction of capex in theory, or a slowdown in reduction in theory. So it's important to understand that the capex is not all going to AI GPUs. It goes to, some companies say 50% goes to data center buildouts and the other 50% goes to like the AI compute. So even if you're decreasing in capex or slowing down, there is still a scenario that is not impossible, that is AI compute is still increasing, but maybe you're just not building that many data centers this year, or you already spent a heavy portion of the data center build out this year. So that's also important for investors to kind of keep in mind of.
Agreed. I would love to know what you think about this playing like the earnings buy or sell moment. Should I buy AMD now before earnings? I've been reading now about it and I'm bullish. This is not financial advice, just the way you're thinking when you look at a company, a stock, you think it's attractive, but they're just about to report earnings. What's usually your play?
Usually, this one's weird. So earnings play, I go in, I go in thinking the worst, Neil. I go in thinking that if I buy something right now, I'm gonna be the worst market timer in the world, and earnings are gonna drop. So luckily, I know I have time on my side. So as long as that bullish thesis is still intact after earnings, which I don't think, if a quarter is enough to break your bullish thesis, then maybe you shouldn't be. I wouldn't be in that company. Um, I'm bullish in AMD in the long term. I'm not bullish for their AI accelerators, but there's definitely growth opportunities. I do want to say that we are kind of still in a bit of a slowdown in the PC refresh cycle. But it's not, and I think we're gonna see those numbers still being slowed here. The question is, when is that gonna turn around? Are we gonna see it in this guidance, or are we gonna see it in next guidance? And I think all depending on the guidance is gonna be where the turnaround story happens. So I I don't know about. I would go into earnings play looking at a long term mentality, and I wouldn't care if the stock drops or increases after earnings. If I was really worried, I would maybe do like a one third play after, and a one third position after that. How about you, Neil?
Yeah, no, I think it's about, unless it's like a pure earnings trade where you just trade it and then you're gonna sell it, loss or win. But if it's for the long run, then yeah, it's important to allocate accordingly, right? Don't go all in before earnings, even if it jumps 10% after that. You probably got lucky, but risk reward wise, it's risky. Like open a small position. If it goes up, great. That part of the position is already up. You get more information. You can add accordingly after that. Same if it drops. Okay, that small position dropped, but now you have more information and you can allocate accordingly and build up your position over time. So with AMD specifically, I mean, it is the start of the year, so we're all focused on that guidance for 2025. There's all that movement now, DeepSeek, lowering costs, this and that. So I would say, yeah, start maybe small and then see what they say during the earnings call, and then you can make more informed decision after hearing what they have to say. I think that would be the smart move.
Definitely, Neil. We also have a here one from Custard and Chips. Alibaba launching a new AI model to rival DeepSeek and Meet
I
AI.
would assume it's Meta AI.
Oh, Meta AI. Yes. You know what? I read it first the right time, and then when okay, I think we're gonna see a lot of this, Neil, in the upcoming weeks, where everybody's just releasing a new model. We even have rumors that OpenAI is gonna release O3 model next week. I've been on my not dark, but my Twitter pages, and it's like if you go into the real AI players here and there are these rumors, and even some of the open AI players are mentioning that next week, or maybe now late this week, we're gonna see O3 being released. So I think right now, as DeepSeek is creating a lot of noise, we're gonna see every player trying to showcase that they are the best, and it's not the DeepSeek that is the winner. So pretty excited as an AI consumer for sure.
Yeah, plus I've been reading a lot and people are saying that look, DeepSeek came out 12 months after the last, let's say, big breakthrough, and it makes sense. It makes sense to see something like this happen 12 months later, because 12 months from now we're probably going to have something even crazier, cheaper, faster, more performing. So timeline wise, it makes sense that something like that came out. It just so happened to be coming out of China, and just so happened to be that for some reason a lot of the media went, oh, China is kicking the US ass, but every day that passes, we learn more and more that, well, it makes way more mistakes. It might or it might not have completely copied OpenAI. So there is that. And then, yes, we have Alibaba coming out with Qwen 2.5, which is also beating them, and not just them, the others as well on some benchmark numbers. So it's going to be, I think, a weekly or a monthly thing now that we're going to see these types of announcements. But at the end of the day, LLMs, all of these things are becoming a commodity. It's what happens on top of it, or well, underneath it as well.
Definitely, Neil. Next question we have here, my music spot. Jose, I'm hearing a lot of sentiment that Nvidia growth is going to flatten past 2025 because Max 7 are building their own GPUs. Thoughts? I think from them building their own GPUs wouldn't be the reason I would be scared of Nvidia's flattening. They're still supply constrained in a lot of markets. They still control a lot of the supply chain. So in theory, Neil, I feel like Nvidia can kind of still hard hand the market a bit by making sure they still kind of get the huge market share of TSMC manufacturing plant. They still kind of can hard hand the memory market, controlling most of the HBM space. I'm not saying they're going to do that, but that is a possibility to ensure that the other players can't build the systems they want to build. I think what's going to fuel 2026 for NVIDIA is how they're going to continue to develop and provide total cost of ownership efficiencies for these big players. And I don't think DeepSeek is something that hit NVIDIA out of nowhere. NVIDIA has a lot of software engineers, and I'm pretty sure their software engineers have always seen this way where eventually some form of software program will come out and reduce the cost of certain things. So I wouldn't be surprised if NVIDIA already has something to kind of showcase, hey, look, that's true. Now, if you buy our products, you can even take more advantage of this because we kind of been working with it as well. So I think GTC is going to be very, very important, in my opinion, to see what kind of products and how they're advancing in providing more solutions for this new efficiency era.
Yeah, and I would also like to add that right now, I mean, it's not me being bearish, but as TSMC expands in the United States, more capacity becomes available, and I think that's when the so-called competitors will have it a little bit easier, I would say, because they are not capacity constrained anymore, and more clients can come in and put some orders in. Because right now it's true that Nvidia basically dominates TSM's order book, but as they expand, I do think that we're going to see. Maybe that's why AMD is putting so much focus on MI400, because well, that's probably going to be the challenger, let's say. In my opinion, I can be completely wrong.
One thing to that, Neil, is the capacity constraint is not obviously on the wafer side. So even if they're not, I don't think they're building any advanced packaging solutions here in the United States. They're just building the wafer manufacturing plants, and that's not where the constraint is. But again, you do have all those other players like Intel who has their FIRBOS or whatever it's called, advanced packaging. So I think right now Intel could I would like to hear Intel if they're winning any more customers in the advanced packaging market.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. All the advanced technologies will stay first in Taiwan. But I mean, they could switch they could focus just Taiwan. That's advanced. All the rest we're going to switch to the US, and then you basically have a little bit more, let's say, capacity in Taiwan. But yeah, Intel, I would love to hear them say, yeah, we've signed another big client. But I don't know if that's going to happen right now in this call later today.
Definitely, Neil. Neil, did you listen to Elon's earnings call? I
Of
haven't. I'm
course.
just gonna answer this question from Rojas, but then I want to kind of hear maybe what are some of your key takeaways from Tesla. But first, Rojas, based on Tesla's bullish on self-driving, can we expect good future sales numbers on Nvidia Thor? Well, Tesla does create their own AI chips, so I don't think they're gonna unless I want to say Nvidia creates such a chip that's so much better than what Tesla creates. I don't think Elon is gonna switch back to Nvidia for the Thor. But if he's bullish on self-driving, it could be seen as a whole market growth opportunity, and other players outside of Tesla that want to enter into this self-driving space will see an increase in Nvidia Thor. But volume productions for something like this, Neil, will take multiple years. If a company starts working on testing autonomous or self-driving right now, they probably really wouldn't deploy it to a fleet or mass produce it to at least 4 years or maybe more from that. And that's when you would really see kind of a pickup on revenue from those other players in Nvidia Thor. So the only bullish case is if Tesla switches over to Thor. I don't think that's the case unless Nvidia just has a whopping crazy of a chip that Tesla can't even compete with.
Yeah, but I don't think it's going to happen because Tesla likes to
Agree.
work with their own hardware systems and all of that. So I don't see them switching back. Yeah, the earnings call yesterday, I was live with Amit for a long time actually. It was the usual Tesla earnings call. Was most of the times quite boring, even though I mean it's crazy for me to say that it was boring because he did like talk about the future and robots and compute and $1 trillion revenue and this and that and timelines and launches, and you're like, okay, fine. But the way he was talking, the way these earnings calls with Tesla are always going on are usually quite on the boring side of things. But okay, the strange thing was that they focused so much more for once, the analysts, on the non-car part of the company. And I was like so surprised because it's the first time that I actually wanted them to ask some questions about the more affordable models and what's going on for this year, volume growth. But they did not. They focused quite a lot on Optimus, on energy, and on AI, which was quite surprising. But okay, we'll take what we can get, I guess. But I did want to pull up this question. I think we touched on this. I think one of the two first episodes. Can you guys touch on the Nvidia Uber partnership? Could they give Tesla a run for its money?
I don't know, Neil. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think this is going to be a one market takes all. Just like most markets, right? There could be a market that controls most of the space, and I think at early beginnings, Tesla is definitely going to be the player. I wouldn't bet against Elon, but I also wouldn't bet against Nvidia. So I think this is going to be pretty interesting. I guess at least now, Neil, for Tesla, we can see the path forward, right? They have their vehicles, they have their fleet, they have their FSD solutions, they have their AI chips. We know how they already have supervised FSD, so we can see that market in play. With Uber, outside of maybe, what is their play? Is their play really just working with companies like Waymo, working with companies or just buying massive fleets of Tesla? What is their true way to autonomy, right? And I am bullish on Uber, and AI, but it's not for autonomous AI at the moment. I haven't really learned too much what their full plan is for this, and that's still a question. At least for Tesla, we know that plan moving forward. Any thoughts there, Neil? I know you own both, right?
Yeah, I own Tesla, Google, and Uber, so I'm like, whoever's going to win, I win. But I hope all three will win because then it's a win-win-win. But this specific partnership, the announcement that was made a couple of weeks ago, it didn't really explain that much, right? It didn't really explain that much. How is this going to work? What are they going to work on? Because Uber does not really collect any data, right? Like Tesla. Nvidia does definitely have, well, the simulation, the computing power to have multiple simulation, millions of simulations that they can run. But I still don't know how that will work out. Is Nvidia going to provide Uber drivers with specific chips, with specific, I don't know, software, things that you can plug in your car? I don't know how that's going to work. But for me, with Uber right now, it's mispriced. It's starting to be extremely profitable. It still dominates by far. It's a worldwide thing right now. Robotaxis are going to take quite a while, and they've got multiple partnerships with robotaxi players. So I do still think that they will partner up with the majority of them and play as a marketplace and a distribution of autonomous fleets. That's basically my thinking behind the Uber investment. And I think they report earnings next week, so I guess we'll get some answers, because I'm pretty sure that the earnings call will be focused a lot on autonomous driving. And I do want to
Definitely.
thank Neil, same name, for becoming a member. So thank you very much, my fellow
Neil,
name
you
guy.
can't buy your own super chat. You can't buy your own super chat. That's a rule, Neil.
Yeah, it's money laundering.
We do have a super chat question here, Neil, on my channel. Hey, I just inherited Nvidia shares. Should I diversify it instantly or wait this year? So I'll answer my overall thought process, Neil, and I want to hear from you. I'm not going to think about this as Nvidia. I usually think about this in any of my positions. I sit down and I wonder, hey, Jose, if this position that you own, what do you regret more? What would you regret more? Selling a position and it goes up, or selling a position, or not selling a position and it goes down? Whichever one hurts you the most, I think, is the one that's going to give you the most answer. For example, if I had a 1% position in a portfolio and I had to answer my question, if the stock drops, it really wouldn't affect me too much. So I would say, okay, maybe I wouldn't sell. I'd rather take the gains. But if it was 100% of my overall portfolio, maybe I would sell some. But it's all dependent. We don't know where Nvidia stock can go in the next year or so. It could be bullish in the next 2 years. It could be super high in the next 3 years. But you might need that. Think about when you might need money. Think if you need money within the next 12 months. Maybe not completely sell. Maybe not completely hold. Maybe do a mixture. But I think this is all personal finance, and you have to find what you're most comfortable with. Because at the end of the day, no matter how bullish you are in a company, anything can happen.
I have nothing more to add to that great answer. Nothing more to add to that great answer. I do want to touch in one sentence. This will never happen. Tesla will never acquire Uber. It's a $130 billion company, and to be honest, they don't need to acquire Uber. So, well, never going to happen. I know you don't own Intel, so I want you to answer this first, and then I'll say what I have to say here. What are possible thesis breaking points that you will be looking for with Intel earnings?
I don't know, Neil. There's some thesis breaking points. I do a massive thesis breaking point would be if Intel decides to slow down in their manufacturing push. I think that definitely would be a big red flag for me. I think that is definitely one of their biggest growth opportunities. I think it's okay for them to do both external foundries right now until they get everything fixed. So I know if they mention more external foundries, it might be shown as a weakness about their internal foundry business. But I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think you can adapt with the current market right now and still fix your internal products. So if they go external but still work on their internal manufacturing, that's okay with me. If they go external and it makes it seem like they're not really going to push too much on their external business, on their internal business anymore, I think that would be a breakage point for me, because I do believe the manufacturing is a major asset for them.
Yeah, no, it's a good answer. It's a good answer. I've said this in the past as well, right? The main reason why I am, well, why, other than the fact that it in my opinion it looks cheap, but it looks cheap because there is that call option on Intel Foundry. If that Intel Foundry does become successful and not a money burning machine anymore, then the investment will pay, I mean, quite big rewards in the years to come. So yeah, I would like to hear more throughout this year, maybe some new customer wins, some new contracts, that partnership with Microsoft, with Amazon. How are things evolving? 18A, very, very important. But I agree, I don't mind them using TSMC if it means that they come out with super good products. Because before they didn't want to use TSMC and they came out with garbage products, and that's why AMD took market share super comfortably. But now when you start using the best of the best technologies with TSMC, you can compete. You can maybe make sure that you're not losing any market share anymore, and maybe even try to gain some lost market share. So I don't mind. Yes, you take a margin hit, but for the brand image, it would be way better for them to have headlines like, oh, Intel is back with some leading products, than just, oh, Intel is trying to make everything in-house and then it doesn't work.
Yeah, I think unfortunately with Intel, Neo, is no matter what they do, they're going to be criticized dramatically from each side. And I think that's going to create, no matter what, it's going to create kind of like a bearish perspective on the stock. Um, so I think that's one thing they have against. They really can't do any right now. I personally don't see it. Even though it is right for the business in the market's point of view, I think no matter what they do, will always be wrong.
Especially since there is still no CO or any hint of who the new CEO will be. So yeah, I mean, the bar is set quite low for the stock right now. So like I said on Tuesday, I still expect them to beat their own guidance, I think quite comfortably. And then it's really up to them to put some good guidance for the next quarter, maybe some commentary on the year, and we'll see how the stock reacts. But yeah, at $19.82 right now, I don't know. I don't know how much lower this thing can go, but lower can always go lower.
And the other thing, Neil, is right now with news, with usually when you have either new CEOs or upcoming CEOs, they tend to not really give much guidance. I think that can also create some form of negativity on the stock. But yeah, so it's definitely going to be an interesting one to watch. How's it doing right now, Neil? It's pretty much up about 0.35% right now.
Yeah, not much. Yeah, like you said, when there is a new CEO incoming, but again, there is no. But usually, yeah, they put the bar quite low so that CEO can have it much easier in the next coming quarters, beat that comfortably. We've seen that with Snowflake, for example. New
Mm-hmm.
CEO came in, bar was set quite low, and then they just beat quarter after quarter after quarter.
Definitely. And Neil, I don't know if we have Avnet here. Any comments on ServiceNow? It's down a lot, but a long-term goodbye. I don't pretty much follow this. All I know is in the software space. I don't know, Neil, if you have any thoughts on this one.
I have not looked at it in a while, actually. I've known about ServiceNow since 2017 because a friend of mine worked there. Well, and since then, I think the stock has done quite well.
Oh
But
wow, yeah.
yeah, but no, yeah, apparently, yeah, it's down
That's all because your friend started
13%.
working there.
Yeah, some insider information we got. But yeah, it does seem like it took a hit. I don't know what happened, but let's see. Maybe the usual stuff. A good quarter, but guidance was a bit weak. I don't know. I personally don't follow this company that closely to explain what has gone on there.
Definitely. Neil, I have another question here from Joseph. Correct me if I'm wrong. I have not heard of any actual reduction in Capex. I thought I heard that they were just not increasing it more.
Mhm.
I actually think both are. I, there's definitely hasn't been a reduction in Capex yet, and they are still increasing. I think the biggest way the market is playing it right now, Neil, is that it's not growing at the same rate it was before, which obviously makes sense. I mean, obviously you can go from 40 billion to from 20 billion to 40 billion. That's 100% increase. Now going from 40 billion to 60 billion, you still see a $20 billion growth numerically, but now it's only a 50% growth rate. So that's the important thing. The growth rate is decreasing, which I don't necessarily think is a bearish case for AI companies, unless you were expecting these AI companies to continue to grow revenue at triple digits year round. And I don't think, I would say most investors probably don't think like that. I think we still expect AI companies to grow at a faster rate in revenue than the AI market. But I hope no one's thinking triple digits every single quarter for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, and that's exactly. I wanted to touch on the Microsoft. I don't know if you had the time to look at that, but Microsoft again, a pretty good quarter for them. It's true that cloud, we saw a small deceleration. It only grew 30%, right? It only grew 30% on a much larger number, on dollar number, right? This cloud segment continues to grow over 30%, but because it previously grew 34% and now only 30, then that's a red flag, let's say, which, let's be honest, is completely ridiculous. If you can grow 30%, but the number that you're growing is already bigger than the last one, I don't really see why there is such an issue. And with Microsoft here as well, Capex is not going down. It's just that it's not going to increase as fast as before, which, okay, was expected, right? You cannot continue to spend that much money and increase it every single time. It just doesn't make much sense from an investment perspective either. So yeah, the overreactions this week were quite funny across the board.
Definitely. We have a comment here, Neil, from Andre. AMD is ahead of compute. Their architecture is the best. They have leadership in logic and packaging design. I like them. So I don't know if they are a leader, but Neil, I've heard from a lot of semi-analysis that semi-analysts that I follow that AMD is actually really good at chip design. They are definitely really good. They're one of the few players that really started with advanced packaging a lot earlier than most players. The thing is, not you don't need to just have the best product. You need to be able to know when that product is viable for the consumer, for the market, right? Just because you have the best product, it doesn't mean it's gonna sell. You have to have the best product for that market. And I think that's sometimes what AMD lacks in. And also they are lagging a little bit in, not a little bit, in forms of data center. They are definitely lagging in software engineers, mainly for the data accelerator space. But I think they're still really, really good in the CPU space, which has done really well for the business in server market and the client market.
Agreed. And I think with this whole interesting talk and people focusing on that one single announcement, right, that was made for Llama and the MI300X exclusivity and stuff like that, I think people focus a bit too much on that. It's a great announcement, but you shouldn't focus your whole thesis on just that one thing.
Let's see, what else do we have?
We have your guy, Mr. Skittles, here giving me a nice little compliment. Yesterday during the streams was funny because usually when we talk about Tesla, everybody's freaking out and I'm always pretty calm. So it became a thing that people make jokes, and there was like people, yeah, I would like to hire a couch whenever somebody dies to give me the bad news because he will give it in a nice way.
Oh, nice. Was it a fun stream yesterday? Is it funner than this? Be honest, Neil. You have more fun here.
To be honest, no, because I don't know. Tesla's earnings call usually starts 1 hour and a half after the market closes. It's a joke, and then the earnings call is always a circus. Let's be honest. Elon was busy tweeting in the middle of the earnings call.
Yeah, that's wild. Question here, Neil, from Matthew Johnson. Do you think Jensen needs to come out with a tweet or statement to calm the market? Is Nvidia staying fairly quiet until they fully understand DeepSeek? I think Nvidia fully understands DeepSeek. I think they are on a quiet period right now, Neil, until they report earnings. But I also think that at the moment, this is definitely not a thesis breaking for Nvidia. So I think Nvidia is just like, okay, this is cool. They did release something. I forgot what they released. I talked about it in a video a few days ago, but Nvidia made a statement. So I don't know, Neil, if you want to take something while I look at the statement on DeepSeek real quick.
You can look at the statement. I'm just going to scroll here and look at a couple of. Yeah, Alibaba had a crazy day. Actually, I'm tracking the Chinese because I own. Yeah, it's up 5.5%. That's great. I own Alibaba and Pinduoduo. Those positions are now very much green, which I'm quite happy about. I'm not going to hold them for years and years, but I thought that for 2025, there is quite a lot of value in these types of names. So me personally, I am biased because I own Baba and Pinduoduo. And of course, Baba came out with their own, let's say, model that beat out DeepSeek and whatnot, which, let's be honest, DeepSeek is basically a Temu version of OpenAI / Llama. So
here on CNBC, Neil, NVIDIA calls China DeepSeek R1 model an excellent AI advancement. DeepSeek is an excellent AI advancement and a perfect example of test time scaling. An NVIDIA spokesperson told CNBC on Monday, DeepSeek's work will illustrate how new models can be created using that technique, leveraging widely available models and compute that is fully export control compliant. So there are different types of scaling laws that have been talked about. One of them is time test scaling. So pretty much he's saying that, yeah, or Nvidia is saying that, look, this just showcases that test time scaling is definitely another scaling law when it comes to computational power needs.
I had someone ask actually before it went live if you do you follow Wolfspeed?
I do not, Neil. I mean, I've done I know kind of a top level overview of them. They're manufacturing a lot of silicon carbide here in the United States. They're building manufacturing plants. They spent a lot of, actually, I guess I know something. They spent a lot of capex on this on building these plants. But right now they have about $7 billion in debt and only about $1 billion in cash. We know the silicon carbide market is mainly related in the EV and the automotive industry, which is pretty weak. So they have a very weak balance sheet, and currently during a weak downturn, which is usually lose-lose scenario. The only bullish case that they have is gross margins are pretty weak because utilization rates are super low, just like it is in any manufacturing space. If and when things turn around, margins and things can pick up pretty quickly as utilization rates can really fix up gross margins, and maybe this company can be profitable. The only thing, Neil, is I feel like the silicon carbide market is going to be pretty weak, at least for now, because I don't think there's going to be any real reason for car inventory to pick up out of nowhere.
Yeah, that they reported earnings apparently yesterday, a double beat, but still, of course, losing quite a lot of money. I also did one video about them, and I think we will only that's their own projection, if I'm not mistaken. I think their roadmap is to see some growth, let's say 2026, 2027, if I remember correctly. But yeah, until then, it looks cheap because you think, oh, it's down 83.6%. It's a bargain. Super high interest rates, by the way, 23.5%. But still a lot of questions that need to be answered, not just from the company, but from the direction the industry wants to go through. So yeah.
Definitely, Neil. Got a pretty funny message here from Gibbs. Went to Miami, was partying. Next market open, looked at it, see the biggest crash on Nvidia ever. Gibbs, whenever you go partying, let this chat know, so like that we know to buy puts on Nvidia. So keep us all on tabs whenever you go partying somewhere in Miami. And then here from Matthew, after the bell today, we have Apple and Intel. Neil, do you listen to Apple? Are you curious anything about Apple in
I
general?
with Apple, yeah, I usually like quick glance at their earnings report and am amazed that they barely grow, and yet the stock continues to go up, right? It's always the same thing. The stock continues to go up, and growth has been nowhere for a while, actually, right? If you look at the sales growth and all of that, the only thing that is growing quite rapidly is, of course, their services, all the subscription and all of that, high margin, of course, but I don't know, Apple, this thing continues to go up and up and up and up, and yet I don't know, there is virtually no growth. This gets a super high premium as well, like a forward P of over 30, I believe, still. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what they have to say. I don't think AI will get mentioned that much because it's Apple. Maybe that's one of the reasons why the stock did not go up this week, because it's Apple, just like European stocks. Everything AI, there's no reason to go down because there's no such thing as artificial intelligence in Europe. So yeah, tonight I'll be focused only on Intel.
Definitely, I think same. Yeah, I'll try to focus on Intel. Um, it's I only thing I'm curious about Apple is Meta. Mark Zuckerberg just hates Apple, flat out hates Apple.
Yep.
I want to see. I just want to see this go forward. Like, I think Mark has it in his AI diary that he wants to become, truly wants to become the next platform of compute to be able to get rid of Apple. I think that's Mark's secret goal for the rest of his life, is to just destroy Apple. And as of right now, I wouldn't bet against Apple.
You wouldn't bet against Apple?
I'm sorry, against Mark
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Meta.
No, I agree. I think in the next 12 to, let's call it, I don't know, 18 months, I think if they can reach what is it? You need to reach 10 million devices or something for the adoption to start kicking off quite quickly. And I think that that's probably what's going to happen with all the products that Meta comes out, the new glasses, VR, AR, and all of that. I think the adoption rate will just go up and up and up and up. I own a Meta Quest 3. I own the Ray-Ban glasses as well. I will probably own the AR glasses when those come out. Amazing products for a very reasonable price, I would say.
I agree. And I mean, if DeepSeek does have created this amazing AI revolution, I think it's super, super bullish for Meta because they'll be able to kind of create all these solutions and be able to present it to their users. I think they mentioned by the end of 2025, they want to bring AI to at least 1 billion users or something.
Yep.
Was that the number they gave?
Meta AI should have, yeah.
Yeah.
If they think by the end of 2025, an AI solution, whatever, will reach 1 billion users, and they think it's going to be them because, well,
Yeah,
they're already quite close.
He also mentions that one of the great things about the Ray-Ban glasses and AR glasses is AI would love, if they know what you're seeing and what you're listening, they'll be able to provide the best answer easiest, right? Instead of typing something else. Obviously, that kind of brings a whole privacy thing question. And then obviously there's going to be people that are not going to use it. But if it gets pretty cool, I normally don't do any of those crazy tech stuff, Neil. I think if it is super insane, I think I might jump on that wagon.
And they did say that they're going to do something with chat queries, where if you engage with Meta AI, it will know what happened in previous chats. So here again, there is memory that will come in play, and maybe that could tackle the privacy issues, right? Because if everything stays locally on device, then only the device and you know what's going on there, and nothing outside of it. But then again, that's for a future discussion. But I do think that as we go in the age of AI agents and all of that, things are going to get wild, like super interesting.
Yeah, definitely, Neil. We have here from Linky Link. Google and Meta Learnings are leaning towards Broadcom more, it seems. Yeah, I think this is it's definitely the case. I don't think this was. I think most were expecting this, Neil, because as AI accelerator market grows, it's not just going to grow for GPUs; it's going to grow for ASIC solutions as well. And yeah, so definitely bullish for Broadcom as we're seeing more and more players like this, and definitely want to see how the MTAI does in the future for Meta. But I also like this note from Greg, and I think we talked about it earlier, Neil. ASICs are even greater risk to build now, given how much change flux happening in AI design and operations. And yeah, if a workload is completely irrelevant for how the ASIC was built, it would make that ASIC kind of useless to kind of adapt with it. So definitely a great point there, Greg, and I think we covered it a little bit earlier on.
Yeah, no, it's actually it's a very good point, but it goes back to the big tech. How do I say this? Every big tech company, right, is designing their own chips for specific workloads, and that's the thing. Those are going to be chips for specific workloads, and then all the rest they're still going to buy from the Nvidias, from the AMDs, because everything basically changes quite rapidly. My chat here disappeared and reloaded, but there was one person who asked if I for going live later. I'm not going live later for Intel, but I will just make a video to summarize everything that's going on, because I've been live 3 hours yesterday. We're live now. So many earnings. And I had 3 hours of sleep because I had to wake up for a meeting this morning. So no live, but we will be live every Tuesday and Thursday.
Yep, and hopefully maybe some new days in the future. Yeah. Depending on how much you guys like these shows.
Depending on how much the market drops as well.
Let's see, what else do we have here? Football hype quick. I'm just gonna. Do you think AMD has a better growth opportunity compared to Nvidia? There are rumors that it's arguably good for inference. Obviously, it's good for inference. We've seen it. Does have a better growth opportunity compared to Nvidia. The only thing AMD really has on its side, in forms of growth rate opportunity, it's easy. It's easier for you to go from $5 billion to $10 billion, and that would be 100% growth rate, than it is for Nvidia to go from 100 billion to 200 and something billion, right? So the numbers start get a little harder. It's not impossible, but that is one of the growth opportunities for AMD right now. That is not truly dependent on one market. It has kind of a lot more diversification. Now, diversification within itself could also be seen as a risk, as you kind of limit your growth a little bit. But I think there's puts and takes, as Lisa says it all the time in her earnings call, for either owning AMD or Nvidia.
Yeah, no. Plus, like you said, going from 5 to 10 is much easier than 100 to 200 billion. But that's also where all the questions marks are, right? They go from, they will exceed $5 billion this year. And all the questions are right now, okay, this is a small, let's say, starting point. So should be easy for them to double it. And that's probably why the stock has been hit, because the market does not believe that they can double it, go from 5 to 10. So I guess we'll see. What happens next week. I think next week they'll report. It's going to be a pretty interesting one. But like we said on Tuesday, I think with Intel you will get already some commentary on certain parts of the business that also affects AMD.
Definitely. Martin has a question here. Is TSMC actually doing CoWoS packaging in Arizona, or is it done in Taiwan? So CoWoS packaging, for those that are not familiar, is that advanced packaging solution that is used to kind of put the wafers together, or the chips together. In Arizona, you're only building the wafers. Most of the CoWoS and the advanced packaging is actually still done in Taiwan, where you kind of put everything together to make it really, really work. There are talks that some partnerships, like I forget their name, it starts with an A, is building an advanced packaging here in the United States, that they can work with. But right now, while the chips will be built here in the United States, the advanced packaging portions of it will still be done in Taiwan, Martin.
This question, do you think is worth buying Intel now? It has been trading in a $19 to $25 range for the last 6 months. Yeah, tell me about that. Do you think they positioned for a turnaround? Well, we will have to wait a couple of hours and we will get our answer. It's been trading in that range because, well, it's been quite the turmoil at Intel. No CEO, uncertainties, etc., etc. So we'll see. It's more about looking at a business rather than just a stock price, especially with Intel and AMD and all of that.
Definitely, Neil. We have any other questions here? Let's see. Let's see. This one's interesting. Char, what do you think is the problem with ASML for the last 3 years? Neil, any way you can pull up ASML's chart for the last 3 years?
Can
I
pull
would
up
have
last
expected to
5
be.
years, but
Yeah.
last 3 years would mean something like this.
Oh, pretty much flat, eh? I don't know. I mean, you've had some weird cycles. I mean, after COVID, which was around 2022, you started to see a massive over inventory correction happening in the semiconductor space. When you see over inventory correction happening, you see less need for manufacturing equipment, as you don't need to expand your manufacturing lines. I think now it's actually a bullish time for the semiconductor equipment space. And we talked about it, right, Neil? Because you're kind of seeing that bullish sentiment that the turnaround story is happening. TSMC is going to spend more capex, and you also have new innovations happening in the semiconductor space. 2 nanometers and below, you definitely need better equipment. Maybe you didn't need that. You didn't need to buy the best equipment to go from 5 nanometer to 3 nanometer, or from 7 nanometer down to 5 nanometer. But now, if you want to go down to the 2 nanometer and below era, now it's creating kind of another tailwind there. And then you have every country wants to kind of become independent in chip manufacturing. So in general, there's a lot of tailwinds right now. So I'm definitely bullish in the equipment space, Neil.
Yeah, no, I agree, and we keep on talking. I think on a weekly basis that we're bullish on the equipment players. Plus, let's be honest, it's true that in the last 3 years the stock might not have done much, but if you bought in the last 3 years. You probably bought here under 400, you bought under 700. So there were some great buying opportunities. And then right now, you look at the business, you look at the industry, and it does seem like, well, we're going to see a lot more. Well, you're going to use a lot more lithography in the future, way more. And that's especially true since, well, more and more companies are going to be building and requiring more and more chips. You want the best of the best, you will probably need ASML equipment for that.
Definitely, Neil. Definitely, Neil. Let's see what other questions we have
Maybe
here.
this one. This is an interesting one.
In which way Qualcomm could participate in producing or using models? I mean, Qualcomm has created a lot of chips for they have like NPUs that go on their processors that go on cell phones. So Qualcomm, it's definitely a winner, Neil, in my opinion, if AI solutions become less compute dependent, as then you'll be able to run them very easily on Qualcomm chips, which are used in almost every Android phone and a lot of kind of other Internet of Things products in the market right now.
Yeah, AR, VR. We have Qualcomm chips. Their new PCs, Qualcomm chips in cars as well. So no, I think they'll be also a quite a decent player. Let's say I think that they've got their hands in multiple buckets.
Yeah, definitely, Neil. I think, Neil, I only got time for maybe 2 or 3 more questions, but
Yeah,
just
no, for sure.
for anybody, I'm gonna just quick plug here, Neil, for my newsletter. If you want to learn about the semiconductor space, check out whatthechip.happened.com. It is on my pinned comment. Neil, I don't know if you have anything you want the viewers. Just go to Neil's website and subscribe to his channel if you haven't, for sure.
Yeah, subscribe, follow on X would be good enough. Good enough, and keep watching our videos and the live streams.
Definitely, that would be the best way.
Yeah.
We have a question here, Mario. How can Intel's earnings help AMD? I think if they just say the PC refresh cycle is a little bit earlier than we thought after Micron and Memory's earnings, then I think that could be bullish for AMD. Any other thoughts, Neil?
No, I think that's exactly that, because I highly doubt that Intel's comments on um, data centers and GPUs are going to be of any importance for AMD, since, well, there is such a big difference right now. But I would say that Intel's GPUs, the consumer ones, I think
Mhm.
that's also something that's flying under the radar and could help the company get some better results tonight,
Mhm.
because we've seen the price is good, the performance is good, it's been well received from the market, from the industry. So I think ARC's GPUs are going to be a small surprise, let's say.
Yeah. Neil, I don't know if we've been. There's a lot of comments here. I don't know if we've been. There's definitely some YouTubers that kind of have discussed that maybe the RTX 5080 and 5090 are not as crazy as they think. I do think Nvidia has made these GPUs not only for the gamers now. I think they do have a lot of upside in AI solutions, because I know these new architecture uses FP4, and some people are going to complain about FP4, but it does seem like it is improving in the AI market. So I think these new GPUs are going to be, yes, for your gamers, but they are providing, in my opinion, a lot of solutions for your lobby hobbyist
Hobbyist, yeah.
AI hobbyist AI players.
Which, I mean, yeah, I've seen a lot of comments saying, oh, okay, there is not really going to be such a big difference between the previous versions, because even the previous versions, the price was sky high, but the difference between the price and the performance was not there, which is why a lot of people were pissed off, and they were waiting for like a worthy competitor um, to come and break the market, especially towards the mid to low end. So that's why the majority of people were happy that Intel actually came out with a product that's quite decent performance to price. So we'll see. But yeah, with the new Nvidia ones, I've seen a couple of videos, but yeah, I don't own one, so I can't share some personal opinions. I do have 4080 in my laptop here.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah, it's powerful, but then again, should I have paid so much? I don't know. I'd probably not. Probably not.
All right, Neil. And I'm sorry we couldn't. I'm happy we got so unfortunately not happy. I'm happy and not happy that we got a lot of questions. It means we're getting a lot of engagement in this. I'm sorry we couldn't get to all the questions. But the great thing, Neil, is for me, some of these questions actually give me video ideas of what people want to learn about. So if we don't answer it here in the live stream, we'll probably discuss it in an actual video either later today or tomorrow. So it definitely helps us understand what you guys, the viewers, want to watch and want to learn about. So appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. I just want to touch maybe on this because I've seen this comment just pop up a couple of times, or maybe he's like going to be frustrated, and it's your Skittles guy.
Oh
Palantir
man.
earnings and SARS impact. SRS, it's the compensation that's going to impact earnings per share. Yeah, Palantir's earnings is Monday night. I'm definitely going to cover that, although I will probably be on the train, so it would be a remote stream with Amit and the rest. But yeah, it's definitely going to impact EPS. I'm still out of my position. Hopefully, it's a good quarter, but the stock crashes. That's the best combo. Uh, I know I'm selfish by saying this, but yeah,
Selfish.
yeah, very selfish. But yeah, I would like to come back, but at a cheaper price, of course.
All right, Neil. All right, viewers. I think this is time. We'll see you guys Tuesday, and hopefully Tuesday I should be back in Jersey. I should see my barber. So if you see a whole new face on Tuesday, don't be alarmed. It's just me with a haircut.
Maybe a tie. Maybe a tie. All right, guys. See ya.